Well, well, well. Another Frontier Unlocked stream means more Elite Dangerous news and more Elite Dangerous discussion. So, surprisingly, today's stream talked about Powerplay, which I was not expecting, but here we are. Now, it wasn't the deep dive that we've been waiting for, which I assume we are getting relatively soon, but it does have some pretty exciting announcements in there. There is stuff to get excited about, so let's take a look. First thing they showed off, which was actually pretty cool, is that station interiors now change depending on the power play state. So, for example, exploited, which is when a power is slowly starting to crawl into a system. Well, exploited systems will now start showing some propaganda and stuff around stations. And you'll even see graffiti from people that aren't happy about that power showing its face in the system. It is really cool, and as time goes on and the power gets more influence in the system, and enters a fortified state, there will be even more propaganda, more assets, more branding, and as you go even higher to the stronghold state, they will display posters of power leaders, it looks like on the ceilings, it seems, and will be fully branded in the power's image. They emphasized even smaller details will change. Specifically, vending machines were mentioned, which is kind of funny. They also showed off the new Powerplay map mode in the Gal map, which is, while less flashy, looks way better to interact with. Anybody, look, I will miss the bubbly look because it's iconic at this point, but for anybody that actually zoomed in with that thing on, it was a little messy, so this is probably for the best. The biggest reveal here is the stronghold carriers that are present in stronghold systems. This is actually a really cool idea in my opinion. They mentioned that they serve as hubs for people pledged to the power, and if you aren't pledged to the power, there is gameplay here to mess with the stronghold. Now, depending on how extensive that is, this could be a very cool combat area. I can imagine strongholds slowly being invaded, or a surprise attack on a stronghold even as a power loses influence in a system. I'm also curious as to what the interior of these carriers will look like, as the whole command deck thing with the seat wouldn't make a ton of sense because players, I would imagine, don't control these carriers, so I guess we'll see how that works. They also described that Powerplay 2 is a way more polished and engaging version of Powerplay. And they also specifically pointed out that they are aware of the lack of understanding as to what is happening elsewhere, like what other players are doing. So to me, it sounds like they're addressing an issue that Elite as a whole struggles with, in my opinion, which is feedback. Elite seems to have an issue with illustrating to the player that whatever they're doing has an impact. During the Horizons era, it would tell you after each successful mission that you left an impact with it. But that isn't a ton of feedback, and even then, that looks like it was totally removed when Odyssey came out. So, now, obviously, if you know what you're doing in a system and play the BGS, you will very clearly see your impact on the galaxy. It's very obvious, but that's not how most people seem to play, probably because they don't know it's happening and probably don't even know the BGS is there. So, also, I hope that Powerplay 2 isn't solely combat, as expanding influences in the BGS involves a whole lot more than that. Things like trading and delivering specific commodities to help get out of bad states, exploration data for expansion, stuff like that. There's a ton of opportunity here to give players variety, and I hope they do. I do have one concern about this update though, and that's mostly because they didn't really talk about it, and that is the content changes. See, the very little I have played of Powerplay, and I'm assuming a lot of you, was mostly just like really dull mission loops that you do over and over again that weren't challenging, that weren't very interesting, and everybody just ended up, sitting there and spam trading for the Powerplay modules and just leaving the entire system alone past that, which isn't good. I hope that this is addressed, which is to say, I hope that this isn't just an update to the cosmetics of Powerplay, to the UI. I want new gameplay loops here, or more utilization of the gameplay loops you do when running BGS that most people avoid because it doesn't make the most money. Obviously, it's not just cosmetic because, these stronghold carriers are very much new gameplay, but I am curious to see the actual changes made to the mechanics and gameplay loops. That is ultimately the most important part in my opinion. Anyway, I don't think they mentioned a specific release window, but I keep hearing the word summer thrown around, so I would assume that's when we're expected to see this sometime in summer. Also, of course, I am curious as to how the acquisition of Powerplay modules will work. Please, if anything at all, make it so this no longer takes a month, because that is ridiculous. Also, how is Odyssey's gameplay going to be incorporated here? Obviously, we have the station interiors going on, but wars are now fought not only in the air, but on the ground. Smuggling, salvaging, sabotage, all of that can happen on the ground too. So, to be honest, I'm probably most curious as to how much action Odyssey will see here, because it could really add a lot of life by player engagement to that half of the game that has seen so little love so far. This isn't the only stream that's happening for Powerplay, though. I think this is much more of a taster for the deep dive that I'm assuming we're going to see in the next couple unlocks. And with that, honestly, to me, this is another W for Frontier. These unlocks have been so nice to have here in the Elite Dangerous community. It adds so much more discussion, so much more anticipation for the future. Good stuff. And with that said, of course, now it's discussion time. Let me know what you think's coming down in the description. What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? You know, do the discussion thing. I'll be down there too. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. Whenever that Powerplay, deep dive happens, you'll be sure to hear about it from me. So make sure to stay tuned. I'll see you around.